Welcome back, everyone. Today we're jumping into a 6th grade topic, Introduction to Negative Numbers. Now, as always, if you have any question about what you see here today, put them in the comment box below. I'd love to be able to help you as much as I can. If you have a question about your own homework you'd like to see on this channel, remember to visit me on Facebook at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. When you find this video helpful, remember to leave a like, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and share with a friend. Well, without further ado, let's talk a little bit more about negative numbers. So when talking about negative numbers, the first thing you need to know is, what is a negative number? Well, a negative number is just going to be any number that's less than 0. So as long as a number is less than 0, we consider that a negative number. Now you might be asking, how can a number be less than 0? And to that, I would say there are a lot of different examples in real life that have this negative number concept. Let's take the example of two people having money. Groot here has 5 gold coins, where Zoro here has 1. So let's say Zoro wants to buy some swords. So he wants to buy swords. However, the swords cost 1 gold coin. So in order for him to get this, he has to spend 1 gold coin. Now, how much does Zoro have? Well, if you look at it, it looks like he has nothing, right? He only had 1 and it cost 1, so he has nothing left over. Whereas Groot hasn't bought anything, so he still has 5. So let's look at another example. Instead of the swords costing 1, let's say they cost 2. So in order for Zoro to have these swords, he needs to spend 2 coins. However, he only has 1. So he asks Groot, can I borrow some money? So Groot says, sure. How much money does Groot have now? Groot has 4, right? He has 4 here. How much money does Zoro have? Well, it looks like Zoro has 2, right? So he spends this and he gets his swords. So now how much money does Zoro have? If you say 0, I would tell you, you are actually wrong. Zoro doesn't have 0. Actually, he has negative 1 coins. And the reason being, the next time Zoro gets money, you would think, oh, he has 1. However, Zoro owes money to Groot, right? Zoro borrowed money in order to buy his swords. So this money actually belongs to Groot. So the next time he gets money again, now he has 1. So you see, he actually needed 2 coins in order to get back to his 1 coin at the end of the day. Because the first coin goes back to Groot. He owes Groot money. So the idea of negative money comes into play when you're talking about owing or debt. So we use negative numbers with finances or with money when we're talking about debt. If you're spending more than you have, Zoro only had 1, so he had to borrow money. He spent more than he had, so we kind of try to denote that with a negative number. Now, it isn't really negative money, but it's the idea, the concept behind you owing money. And we use negative to denote you owe money. So don't think that, hey, I have actual negative money. That's not true. But it just shows you owe someone else that money. Another real world example that uses negative numbers is temperature. Now, temperature can get pretty confusing at times because there's different ways of denoting your temperature. But in the simplest way, thinking about it, negative numbers are used to show you how cold something is. So let's say one day it's 10 degrees outside. Whether it's Fahrenheit, Celsius, whatever, it's 10 degrees outside. And you have a thermometer that starts at 0 and goes up to 10, right? So you know right now it's 10 degrees. But let's say tomorrow they're predicting that it's going to get a little bit colder. And it's going to get colder by 10 degrees. So tomorrow you check your thermometer and you see this. Your thermometer is now reading 0 degrees. Well, that's because we went down 10 degrees, right? So yesterday was 10 degrees and they predicted today was going to get 10 degrees colder. So now we're at 0. And this would be fine if 0 was the end all. But let's say the next day, they're predicting it's going to get even colder, right? If your thermometer only started at 0, then how would you denote if it gets colder than 0? there would be no way, right? If you're starting at 0, this will show the same thing as the previous day, but we know that this has gotten colder. This is supposed to be 10 degrees, this is supposed to be 0 degrees, and this is supposed to be 10 below 0. So we use negative to let you know, hey, we're a little bit colder than 0. And this is where things get confusing because there's a concept known as absolute 0, but a lot of times we're not working in absolute 0. So if you're not working in absolute 0, you can actually get less than 0 degrees here. So we use negative to let you know, hey, we're a little bit colder than 0. Your thermometer, if it starts here, is not going to be helpful for anything that's colder than 0. So we started with some real world examples so you can kind of get an idea of how negative numbers are used in everyday life. But let's look at some number lines to see how they're used in math. Let's say we start at 0 and we want to go up 1 spot. So we jump up 1 spot. This is what we're used to, right? We want to go up, we count by 1, so we go up 1 spot. Groot is now up 1 spot. Let's say we want to go up another 3 spots. So we're counting more, so 2, 3, 4, and we go up 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. Now Groot is at 4. This is what we're used to seeing. However, let's say we want to go backwards 5. Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's impossible, right? If we start at 0 and that's the very first number, we can't ever go beyond that, right? When we first learn to count, we're really only focused on half of the number line. Everything from 0 on. But there's another side of the number line that we haven't necessarily seen yet. And that is the negative numbers side. So if you're starting at 0 and you want to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 again, so 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of stopping at 0, if we're saying, hey, go backwards 5, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go 1 more, right? And if we went 1 more beyond 0 in the negative, that's going to say -1 is where we're stopping. Every place we go beyond 0 to the left, you're going to get more and more negative. So every number that you have for your positive, you have an exact copy of it in your negative. And when you take all of these whole numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity, all of these numbers, including your negatives, are called integers. Our negative numbers actually complete our number line. So similarly to how you can compare positive numbers, you can also compare negative numbers. So let's say you have 6 and 10. You can tell based on what you know about positive numbers which one's bigger. In this case, is 6 bigger than 10? No. 6 is less than 10. Well, let's say you had -6 and a -10. You might be tempted to say this is less than -10. However, I want you to think about your number line and think of how negative really just lets you know which direction you're going based on a starting point. And our starting point here will be 0. So let's say we start at 0 and we're going to travel to the left, getting more negative, right? Travel to the left 1 spot. Well, what do we get? We get -1. Let's say we go another spot. -2. Another spot. -3. And we keep doing this. And -10. So as we're getting more and more negative, we're going more and more to the left, you see how the numbers seem like they're getting bigger, but they're really getting smaller, right? The idea of going to the left works the same way as if you had positive numbers. So if I had 10 here, 5 in here, and I start at 10 and went to the left, I would be getting smaller, right? I'm not getting bigger, I'm getting smaller as I travel to the left. Well, keep going, you're still getting smaller. So if you would get smaller on this one looking at positive numbers, you're getting smaller on this one looking at negative numbers as you keep going to the left. So which number do you hit first? Well, you hit 6 first, right? That -6. And then you hit -10. So if you're going to get smaller as you go to the left and you hit -10 after you hit -6, that means -10 is actually smaller than -6. So -6 is greater than -10. And that's how negative numbers work. On your number line, you're going to be going to the left or to the right as you're counting up or counting down. However, unlike the positive numbers, where the bigger digit means you are actually bigger, the negative numbers, the bigger digit means we're getting more negative. We're going more and more to the left, meaning we're actually getting smaller. The bigger digit in your negative means you're getting more negative. Bigger digit in your positive means you're getting more positive. So you're getting bigger. You're getting smaller in your negatives when you have a bigger digit. So we have -93 and -120. And this question is really trying to ask, is this less than -120 or is this greater than -120? Well, if you look at your number line, right? Remember we said the bigger number means we're getting more and more negative. If you were doing it in the positive sense, you would count from 0 all the way up to 120. And because 120 is bigger than 93, you would hit 93 first. But if you're counting backwards, if you're counting from 0 and you're getting more and more negative, well, what number are you going to hit first? 93, right? Because you're still counting the same way. You're still counting, let's say -10, -20, -50, -80, and you're going to hit a -90 before you get into the hundreds. Therefore, -93, since you're hitting it first, it's higher on the number line than -120. -120 has to be less. So this is going to be A, because our point at A is going to be further negative than our -93. B is too far to the right. It's actually bigger than -93 because we're getting closer and closer to 0. As you go to the right, you're getting bigger. So we don't want to have that B because we're trying to find -120. -120 is less than -93. So let's look at one more example of comparing negative numbers using our number line. So this question says we're trying to find which choice is giving us our values from greatest to least, biggest to smallest. And remember, biggest means we're higher on the number line. Smallest means we're lower on the number line. Just like you would for positive numbers, the same thing is true for negative numbers. So I'm just going to write our numbers here, and then we're going to put them on our number line in the correct order. Which one is going to go first? Notice that we're having 0 here. That means 0 is the biggest thing. We're only looking at negative numbers. Negative numbers are any number less than 0. So 0 is on our extreme right. So as we're going to the left, we're getting more and more and more negative. So we can just simply count. 1, 2, 3. And understand as we're counting, we're really putting a negative there because we're going to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one are we going to get first out of all of these? If you ignore the negatives, which number are you going to get first when you're counting from 0? Well, you're going to get 51, right? And because we're looking at the negative numbers, we're going to run into -51 first. Then we keep going. Which number will come next? Well, -52, right? So we've done those two. So we keep going. We're counting, counting, counting. Which number comes next? -69, right? Remember, you can just ignore the negatives and count up because we're only focusing on the negative side of the number line. So we keep going, and we get our last number. So now we've populated our number line, and we see that -79 is actually the smallest number we get because it's the most negative. We counted up from 0, gave everything a negative sign, and we placed it on our number line. Negative 79 being the most negative means it's the smallest number. So if we're trying to find our answer from greatest to least, negative 79 is going to be our last number, right? The one before it is negative 69. The one before that is negative 52. And our first number is negative 51. Based on our number line, negative 51, negative 52, negative 69, and negative 79, we have answer D. This is how we can not only compare negative numbers, but order negative numbers using your number line. So I hope you're able to follow in today's example. If you hadn't seen negative numbers before today, I really hope that everything made sense to you. If you have any questions whatsoever, remember you can put them in the comment box below. If you have questions about your own homework like see on this channel, remember you can visit me on Facebook at Tutor Sempai and tell me all about it there. If you haven't done so already, remember to leave that like, hit the notification bell, smash the subscribe button, and share with a friend who could use the help. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I really hope this helped with your homework, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney, and this has been another session of Tutor Me Senpai.